thank you for joining us. I'm going to call the meeting for Wednesday, June 24th, to order at 5:15. We are going to rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance on this end, and then we will come back. And we're going to go out of regular order tonight. I know you know we have Elise with us tonight, our Congresswoman for the 21st Congressional District, and Elise is going to go first right after the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go into our regular meeting. So we are going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. United States of America.
Republic stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's to move right along. So she needs no introduction to us. Elise.
Roll call.
Okay, let me run through the roll call. Mr. Zerlo has reminded me. We'll run through the roll call, and then we'll have Elise. Mr. Castine.
Present.
Mr. Conroy. Here. Mr. Hall. Here. Mr. Henry. Here. Mr. McGill. He's here, I can see him. Mr. McGill is here, and he's on mute. Mr. Perrier. Here. Mr. Potiker. Here. Mr. Rosenquist. Mr. Timmons. Here. Ms. Waldron. I'll reach out to them. Okay, fine. Well, we'll see if we can get them on the line. Elise, welcome. We're certainly glad to see you. Go ahead. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Well, thank you, everybody from Clinton County, for all of your tremendous work throughout this crisis. We have been in close contact. I wanted to really focus on the key issues that I think are important to Clinton County, particularly the fiscal issues, which I know are a top priority as you're making the decisions for the next 5 years. So number one, the FMAP funding. I was pleased to urge the governor to release the FMAP funding, which they had been withholding. These were the federal dollars that were sent to the states, but as we know in New York State, because so much of the Medicaid requirement is on the counties, that funding needs to be given direct to counties. And I think that public urging of the governor is going to go a long way to make those funds released as quickly as possible. That amounts to close to $2 billion across the state, but that's significant for each county. Number two, I wanted to touch upon CBPH. Obviously, we are tremendously grateful for the work of our hospitals all throughout the district, but I wanted to highlight the additional funding I announced within the last week of $13 million to CBPH. We've worked very effectively with the president and CEO of CBPH and the entire team, but that's on top of the first round of funding, which was also significant. So that's an additional $13 million. Broadly, in terms of additional federal funds for counties and municipalities, I do feel strongly confident that we will have an additional COVID relief bill in the month of July. We are scheduled to pass that in session, and it's currently being negotiated. The bill that I'm pushing is what's called the SMART Act, which would be $500 billion of state and local funding. But importantly, the local funding goes to rural communities, rural counties, and it's not that arbitrary cutoff of above 500,000 people, which were the previous rounds of COVID, because we know that rural communities were impacted in some ways more significantly in terms of the economic impact. The additional issue I wanted to raise was the border. I am co-chair of the Northern Border Caucus, which is bipartisan. This has been extremely frustrating as they've extended, and this was a decision made jointly by the U.S. and the Canadians to extend the closure of the Canadian border while we continue to have certain individuals deemed essential, whether it's day-to-day manufacturing trade or whether it's the essential workers at the hospital and health centers. We know that the impact has been significant to our tourism, our businesses, our seasonal homeowners, and just our day-to-day economy and the tax revenue loss. So as part of the Northern Border Caucus, we're advocating for clarity and swiftness in reopening the border, even if that means a gradual reopening. That's really important for the northern border across the country, but specifically the North Country. And then lastly, the visa issues. This is tied into the northern border piece, but L1 visas, which are the executive level visas that a lot of our Canadian businesses that have New York facilities rely upon. That's going to have significant impact. J1 visas, these are seasonal, often tourist-related visas, hotel-related visas that are important for some of our small businesses, as well as the H-2B. I've spoken out in terms of the need to continue those visa programs during this challenging time. But thanks for the opportunity to give an update. We're continuing to work with individuals, seniors, and small businesses to make sure that they understand all of the different aspects of the economic relief package. We'll continue to stay in touch. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I have an observation and a question. I particularly want to thank you for all of these important items, but particularly for that FMAP funding. That was very important, not only our county, but all the counties around. So we appreciate that very much. That was a big chunk of money that was being held up. And the other one is a question on the border. I know you know that for our county, our Canadian visitors and the input from Canada amount to about $325 million a year. And I know that there's a date, I think it's July 21st, thank you, Michael, for the date on that. But we've been trying to talk, I know you have as well, I think, phased in some kind of, give us something here over time. I don't know if we're making any progress with that or not.
I have had conversations with the acting Secretary of Homeland Security at the cabinet level. I've advocated for creative approaches such as temperature checks along the northern border. We've worked so effectively with our Canadian counterparts when it comes to our CBP that I think that's a proactive solution. The challenge, Mark, is even if the U.S. supports a gradual reopening, the Canadians have to agree to it. That's what has been challenging about this. So the conversations are not only with this administration, but also with our Canadian counterparts, including the ambassador, including some of the consul general leadership, the parliamentary leadership that, we're having those conversations, they're ongoing, but there's some trepidation of the Canadians given the media coverage of the high number of cases in New York State. So we are working through that. It's about communication, and I'm hopeful that a gradual reopening is where we end up.
Thank you very much. Is anybody, Michael? Michael has a question.
Yeah, Elise, thanks for joining us today. A couple of things, none of which you're unaware, but we're extremely appreciative of the FMAP funding. You and I have discussed that. I will tell you to date, the state of New York has not released that money to county governments, just as a point of information, although, we continue to push. Secondly, you talked about a fourth stimulus package, and I know you're working with the National Association of Counties and the New York City Association of Counties. We are very supportive of the SMART Act, but quite frankly, we'll take anything. I just wanted to give you a little understanding of our fiscal position, just so you have a sense. Loss of sales tax revenue coupled with impending state aid cuts from the state of New York, having to do, the governor received some budgetary powers to reduce state aid in this year's executive budget if his fiscal plan was not in order. So we're expecting at least 20% cut in state aid. And thirdly, loss of departmental income. So we're estimating a shortfall in county fiscal year 2020, $15 to $18 million, a hole which quite frankly is not able to be filled absent some massive human capital decisions and loss of programs that your constituents are used to. So I just wanted to give you a general understanding of, and all of your counties would give you similar numbers.
Yeah, thanks for that. We'll continue pushing on FMAP. Again, they announced that they were going to send it out imminently after I pushed the governor on it. We will continue pushing. On the loss of state aid, I do want to point out the feds have provided $9 billion of aid already to New York. That's completely separate from the direct federal aid to the hospitals, to some infrastructure projects, in particular transportation projects, ag funding. But I'm optimistic that we will have a package in July that will include robust federal aid. I know it's critical for every single county and municipality.
So, thank you very much.
Anybody else have anything for Elise? Rob Timmons, go ahead.
Hi, Elise.
You have time? So have time?
I've had a couple of people inquire about not getting stimulus checks yet. Is there a certain phone number that they should be calling, or?
Sure. Yes, definitely refer them to my office. Since they are from Clinton County, let me pull up the correct number. Hold on. The number they should call is 518-561-2324.
Okay.
And we will be able to work and process those.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thanks, Rob.
Anyone else?
Excuse me, Mr. Chapman, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Is that you, Patty? Yeah.
Yes, it is. So anyway, I apologize. I had a hard time connecting here. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, very good. We're glad you're able to join us. Elise, do you have any closing remarks or anything?
I'm going to continue working with everyone on this, with all of our county elected leadership and the county staff that are working tremendously hard. For the legislators individually, don't hesitate to reach out, whether it's stimulus questions or other resources out there. We're happy to provide that information, and Mark knows that I'm in constant contact 24/7, and we will continue to be. So thanks everybody for the opportunity, and have a great rest of the meeting.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for your work on all the issues, and especially on these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, you had that down there. I'm sorry, Michael, I missed that. Which one? Good, that one. All right, back to regular order. All legislators have received a copy of the stenographer's minutes of the June 10th, 2020 regular session. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. May I have a motion? I've got a motion by Chris, seconded by Legislator McGill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. For our meeting format this evening, we will not be having public comments this afternoon. However, members of the public are welcome to express their concerns or comments by emailing us at legislature@clintoncountygov.com. That's legislature@clintoncountygov.com. We'll now go to the committee reports. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, committee reports have been canceled until further notice, unless chairpersons opt for an in-person meeting in compliance with mass gathering protocols. Starting in July, committee meetings will begin to be scheduled in the legislative chambers, and proper safety protocols will be in place. Each legislator chairs one of the 10 standing committees, and I will call on the chairperson of each committee in alphabetical order by committee, starting with Buildings and Grounds, Legislator Ferrier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next Building and Grounds meeting is tentative, scheduled for Monday, July 13th at 4:30. End of report.
Thank you. Children and Family Services, Legislator Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Redden, the Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, reported the Youth Bureau is working with municipalities, towns, and the Clinton County Health Department on a 4-week baseball softball season starting July 7th. He stated it will be a challenge with all the state guidelines. However, the counties are very excited the county is able to run a program this year. He stated the state has yet to release federal funds for the summer youth employment and training program. Employment and training staff have developed the program and are ready to start once the funds are received. Normally, the program employs 80 to 90 low-income, at-risk youth for 6 weeks during the summer. The next Children and Family Services Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 7th at 5:15 p.m. End of report.
Thanks, Rick. Just before the meeting, I got a call. And I was informed that the New York Yankees and the New York Mets have donated, I think, 1,000 face masks will be coming to this county that they donated for youth sports. Perhaps we can get together later, Rick, and that'll be delivered to Eric Day over OES. I think he'll get those. And then maybe through Children and Family Services or some way, we can get those out to the youth sports.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later about it once I find out more.
Okay.
Economic Development and County Operations, Legislator Rosenquist.
Good evening, folks. Anastasia Pratt, the county historian, reported that she finished a draft of the repertoire of Clinton County World War II veterans and will be scheduling interviews with those folks to do oral histories. Greg Campbell, for the Commissioner of Board of Elections, stated that the office conducted and concluded early voting. The office the office issued around 4,000 ballots for presidential and received more than 1,800 ballots back. 1,300 ballots had been issued for the mayoral primary in the city, and roughly 800, a little more than 800, were received back. Martin Gagnon, real property director, reported all grievance days are over, and notices had been sent out by the Board of Assessment Review to property owners. That office is now processing the final rolls for July 1st, 2020, and is now open up to the public in compliance with the COVID-19 safety recommendations. Glenn Cutter, Planning Department Director, said his office is now open 8 to 5. The Deputy County Clerk reported the Clinton County Clerk's office is now open for business from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the office is short-staffed. People should expect delays. Let's see, Economic Development County Operations Committee was pulled on resolutions 379 and 380. And the next Economic Development County Operations Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, July 14th at 5 p.m. End report.
Thank you very much. Finance, Legislator Timmons.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to reiterate what's already been discussed between Elise and Mike here, just so that it's in my So Kimberly Davis, the county treasurer, reported the payroll clerk, Jerry Dio, will be retiring. His last day in office was actually today. Congratulations to him. The county is still very anxious to receive word on a federal stimulus package that will provide direct aid to state and local governments. Absent such aid, it will not be possible to close the estimated revenue shortfall of over $15 to $18 million without drastic cuts to services and personnel. The Finance Committee was pulled on Resolution 381 for tonight, and the next Finance Committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, July 1st has been canceled. However, sales tax information will be provided as soon as it is available in the report.
Thank you, Rob. Health, Legislator Walter.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Health Committee was pulled on Resolution 382. The next Health Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for July 7th at 4:30 p.m. And we also have Mr. Canoza again here with us tonight to provide an update. Thank you.
Patty, I'm going to apologize. Mr. Canoza is not here, so I can tell the committee that he and his staff continue to work diligently on the COVID-19 planning and implementation. I can tell you that yesterday, Tuesday, we did get an additional positive case, and we did get an additional positive case today. So I believe we are at 109 positive cases, but I believe we still remain at 2 active ill cases within the county. So we are seeing a few more positive tests, but as everybody knows, we are testing a whole lot more people. We're in excess of 10,500 tests now completed in the county. So, and we continue to monitor, all the goings on to ensure that they are in compliance with the guidance from the state of New York and the CDC. So if he pops in, Patty, I'll let him correct that.
Yeah, thank you. I will. Yeah.
So, Chairman Henry just reminded me, there will be, the governor did tell the region, the North Country region, that they are stepping up state testing centers, 6 of those sites within the region. So, and I believe CDPH will certainly press release this when the time is right with all the details, but I do believe they are one of the sites that will have stand-up testing, so for our residents.
Thank you, Mike.
Simon? Human Services,
Yes.
Conroy?
Yes, the Human Services Committee, Wendy Bishop, Nursing Home Administrator, reported the nursing home is now providing staff COVID-19 testing on site and in accordance with Executive Order 20230. The nursing home is still not allowing visitation, and access to the nursing home is limited to staff and necessary vendors. Staff are required to be screened prior to entering, and residents are screened daily. Darlene Collins, the Director of Office for the Aging, reports throughout the COVID-19 crisis, the Senior Outreach Program has been funded through JCEO, has been active assisting individuals meet critical needs. The outreach workers are assisting clients via telephone as much as possible, but they've been making home visits to address critical needs regarding access to food, medication, and heat. Some clients have difficulty using the telephone. Well, we also have the home delivered meals program throughout the Citizens Council, JCEO, has been assisting with access to food for other adults. Sheltering and recommended. JCEO has been delivering food provided by ADK Action on a weekly basis. These boxes are designed for individuals, and JCEO is delivering 50 boxes per week. To meet the needs of large-sized households, JCEO continues to deliver food from the food pantries. JCEO has also made arrangements with Yendos to shop for clients, with clients conducting payment process via telephone. They've also been assisting with access to medication and been able to help work with kidneys to pick up prescriptions when needed. There have been many clients who have lost access to informal supports during this time. In the South, Senior Outreach has filled the gap. Steve Bowman, Director of Veteran Services, states the Veteran Agency is open to the public. However, the office is seeing clients by appointment only. They're trying to limit the number of people in the office at any given time to follow the social distancing. Human Services Committee was polled on Resolution 383, and the next meeting is tentatively for July 1st at 5:15, but I'm not positive on that yet. End of report.
Thank you very much. We'll do the Personnel Committee. The next Personnel Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, July 6, 2020 at 4 p.m. The Personnel Department continues to evaluate personnel action submissions. Depending on the number of items, the committee may be full. The next Personnel Committee tentatively scheduled for Monday, July 6th, has been canceled due to lack of items, and any resolutions will be full.
So just to be clear, that is a mistake by us. We've not yet formally canceled the committee, depending on the reports that gives off this.
Oh, okay, thank you. I thought it was. Thank you. Plattsburgh International Airport. Robert, Legislator Hall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. All of our flights are still on track. I might add that our flights are up a little bit, not a lot, but up some. I am a little concerned that what Mike said earlier about the people flying to Florida and coming back from Florida about that 14 days. I'm not sure how we track that, but our flights to Florida are a little bit busier than they have been. Our leases, we're still in negotiation with a few people on leases, and as soon as I have anything concrete on our leases, I will definitely get back. Our next scheduled meeting is for July 22nd.
Yep, Bob, I do have, on our call this afternoon, although we are expecting much more guidance from the state of New York on the quarantine, the 14-day quarantine topic, they did say that a lot of that is going to be on the honor system, and if there are some complaints that are made. So the manifests, we are not going to require the airlines at this point to turn over their manifests. Obviously, if there's contact tracing that leads back to one of those, we always can speak to the airlines and get that. But we are not doing that as a course of action, to determine the number of people and tracking them.
Okay. Okay, very good. Our next scheduled meeting will be in person at the Government Center on July 22nd. End of report.
Thank you. Public safety, Legislator Castine.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. David Marcoux, the probation director, stated that the probation department remains open daily with the lobby hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. They have now resumed 100% of daily operations with office contacts and field work. He also noted that courts are slowly opening back up with a great deal of business rolling in from the city and county courts at this time. Jamie Martineau, the public defender, stated that the office is open for business and is at full staff. They are allowing clients into the office but trying to limit face-to-face meetings as much as possible. Sheriff David Favreau stated the jail population has remained stable, although he is concerned when activity resumes to normal. Staff is able to take sufficient time off to refresh and prepare for the reopening challenge. The department's marine efforts are up and running with minimal cost, understanding the potential reduction from the state. Overtime in both jail and patrol are well under budget. The Public Safety Committee was polled on resolutions 385 through 388. The next Public Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 6th at 6 p.m. End of report. And that'll be in the chambers.
Just for the record, Chairman Castine, when Mr. Henry chaired that committee, the overtime in the jail and patrol were not significantly under budget. So,
Thank you. Good job, Bill.
I made it one of my top priorities.
Transportation, Legislator Miguel. You're on mute. Matt.
Am I mute now?
No, sir, you're good.
There hasn't been a meeting of the Transportation Committee as yet. The plan, however, is that the bus service is being considered to be reopened, and Mr. Bosley and the County Planning Office have put together, or are putting together, a plan as to how they are going to do that, as well as a budget as to how they're going to do that. So I would anticipate a meeting shortly once that has been completed. We're in the Transportation Committee can meet and discuss the details and propose a resolution at probably the next meeting or the meeting following. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know the liaison, we'll run quickly through the liaison reports, starting with Chamber of Commerce, Legislator Rosenquist.
Other than the emails that have been going around regarding of the occupancy tax, there is no other report, and there is some discussion about that occupancy tax and how it's going to be paid, which I believe it hasn't been made clear. I know that there have been discussions on where that money's coming from, and I would certainly appreciate having that dialogue amongst this body.
All right, thank you very much. Sticking right with you again, Clinton Community College.
Let's see, we had a meeting the other day, Michael, with NISAC, and essentially, that
it was SUNY Central, yeah.
SUNY Central, yeah, which pretty much proved worthless in my experience. You guys can share your own experience about that. But
we currently
okay. But the college right now is quite uncertain moving forward operation, how it's going to operate, whether or not they're going to open for class or they're going to remain online. There's still questions around that, and those questions are getting worked out and reported.
All right, thank you. Community Service Board, Legislator Conroy, anything?
No report.
Thank you. Cooperative Extension, Legislator Timmons. You're on mute, Rob.
How's that?
There you go.
I've actually got a flyer that I was going to hand out, but instead what I'll do is I'll email it out to everybody on it.
All right. Thank you. Disciplinary review, nothing. Grievance, nothing. Right, Kim?
No.
Okay. Inter-county, Legislator Walter.
We'll be meeting tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. There. LC and LG, Legislator Walter.
No report.
Okay. Soil and Water, Legislator Perrier or Timmons.
We've been busy with farm assessments. They finally got the hydro seeder fixed, and starting to help out the highway departments. We have 2 interns lined up for the summer. They will be aiding in hydro seeding and also doing some culvert assessments.
Okay, Rob, I got a question for you.
Yep.
That hydro seeder, is that the old one? That's the old one, the one they've always had?
It is the old one, and we had put in for a grant that we did not receive for a new one. So we are actually looking to see what we can do because we've had enough issues with it. It's going to be time to get a new one, I think, rather than keep putting money into this. Even though it's fixed, we're still having a slight issue with the seal on it. So I think we're looking at what we can do to replace it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Workforce Development Board, again, Legislator Rosenquist.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Do staff members have a report?
Chris, the federal money continues to flow, so there's been no interruption since crisis number 2 in that field.
The staff member reports. Jackie?
Following the fine leadership, I have no report.
There you go. Mr. Zerlo.
You'll be all happy to know that I've got nothing more to offer this evening.
All right. I don't have much as well. Phase 4, it looks like we talked a little bit about this. Looks like we'll start on Friday on time. We'll know for sure on Friday, but we have every reason to believe that we will roll over to Phase 4. Our dashboard numbers are all green. Everything's looking very good for our region. So we have every reason to expect that we will roll into Phase 4. We talked a little bit about the governor just announced earlier today the 14-day quarantine. Anyone coming from the states of Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Utah, Texas, and Washington, anyone coming from there would have to be on a 14-day quarantine at the end of the states of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. But as we were talking about a little earlier too, if you go on vacation there for a week and you come back, then you'll be on 14-day quarantine as well. So there's going to be more guidelines coming out on that, and we'll see how that's affected.
The phase 4. Phase 4 is not as robust of an announcement as everybody would have liked it to be. Obviously, the biggest group of upset people are the malls and those folks who are leasing space within the malls, because the malls are not slated to open in Phase 4. Bowling alleys are not slated to open in Phase 4, and gyms are not slated to open in Phase 4. So, although we anticipate moving to Phase 4, again, Phase 4 is not as robust as it could have been.
What they are talking about is, well, on Friday, the malls, the gyms, will not open. That doesn't mean that in a few days after that, they might open. There's going to be guidelines come out. They're going to move slowly on those particular items. The governor is taking his time on that. So we don't know when within phase 4 right now that those may open. It doesn't necessarily mean, however, that they won't open for a couple more weeks. It might just be a few days and then they'll say fine. So there's really no answer on that right now. But Michael was correctly pointed out that the malls, et cetera, will not be open there. That's all I have.
Is there, excuse me, how many phases are there going to be? Is this the final phase, or?
Well, we talked about that, Calvin. Actually, they mentioned something about phase 5, but they said no. So we think really what's going to happen is, like, I believe we talked about this a little bit before. I think we're going to be looking at phase 4 and then phase 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. As we go so longer into phase 4, they will not only start opening up, just for example, say malls, but I think you might see a loosening too of some of the guidelines that were in, say, phase 2 and 3. Just for example, maybe bars and restaurants are at 50%, maybe a couple weeks into phase 4, maybe you can go to 75%. I don't know that. I just use that as an example.
No, I believe that's accurate. There is not a phase 5, but what they'll say is those regions that have achieved phase 4, here's what you're able to do now. So phase 4 will be the benchmark that, as the chairman points out, approvals will be added to those regions that have achieved the phase 4 status.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the resolutions. Before voting on the resolutions, I want to note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees, and the legislature is taking action tonight based in large part on the recommendation of those committees. Mr. Zerlo, will you please read the title and the resolutions to be acted upon?
Certainly. Resolution 379, authorizing site agreement with New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, legislature.
Motion, Legislator Timmons, second, Legislator Potiker. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make it clear, I made it clear in the memo to Mr. Rosenquist's committee that this does not obligate the county to any project. As a matter of fact, any prospective project would need all necessary approvals from not only the county, but the town of Plattsburgh in which this is cited. So this just gives NYSERDA the ability to access the property and do whatever due diligence they deem necessary. I will tell you that if in fact it all works out, there would be an added benefit, hopefully, to the county, the town, and to the region that would benefit the development or continue to benefit the development that you folks have started at the old airport. So more to follow, but you are not obligating yourselves to anything by passing this resolution.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Resolution 380, authorizing contract with Extreme Clean, Board of Elections.
Motion, Legislator Rosenquist. Second, Legislator Castine. Discussion.
I will tell you that I spoke to Commissioner Campbell today, and the polling sites were very pleased that we were acting so quickly to ensure, that the day after the election, that their facilities would be clean to provide them some security going forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 381, authorizing contract with Govolution LLC, Treasurer's Office.
Motion, Legislator Timmons. Second, Legislator Hall. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 382, authorizing contract with North Country Association for the Visually Impaired, Mental Health and Addiction.
Motion, Legislator Waldron. Second, Legislator Conroy. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 383, authorizing Clinton County to apply for a permit for the use of the SUNY Plattsburgh Fieldhouse parking lot as a farmer's market coupon drive-through pickup site. Office for the Aging.
Motion, Legislator Conroy. Second, Legislator Castine. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Authorizing lease agreement with Atla Engineering Services, Plattsburgh International.
Motion legislator Hall, second legislator Perrier. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 385, authorizing FM Global Fire Prevention Grant application and acceptance, emergency services.
Motion legislator Castine, second legislator Hall. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution number 386, authorizing contract with Central Square Technologies Emergency Services.
Motion legislator Castine, second legislator McGill. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 387, authorizing contract with Intrado Life and Safety Solutions Emergency Services.
Motion legislator Castine, second legislator Potiker. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 388, authorizing New York State Office of Children and Family Services grant acceptance, District Attorney's Office Child Advocacy Center.
Motion legislator Castine, second legislator Potiker. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 389, authorizing the county treasurer to decrease appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Drinking Water Enhancement Grant, Health Department.
Motion legislator Timmons, second legislator Waldron. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 390, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Emergency Preparedness Grant, Health Department.
Motion legislator Timmons, second legislator Rosenquist. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. That's it for the resolutions. Now next, our next meeting is going to be conducted via Zoom as opposed to this. So I'm going to invite Dave Randall to come in here, our IT guru, to talk to you about that. David?
Good evening, everyone. Because of some changes in, well, basically because of licensing issues, we're going to need to switch over to Zoom starting July 1st. So any meetings that we do past then, do Zoom. I'll be finalizing the setup this week, and I'll reach out to everyone next week to do any testing in advance of July 8th.
Yeah, July 8th.
In advance of the July 8th meeting. If anyone has any questions before then, before I reach out, feel free to give me a call on my cell.
Can it require them to download something?
They will, if you have not done a Zoom meeting before, you will have to download an app the first time. It should download automatically when you click on the link that I will send out. So, if anyone has any questions, just reach out. But you should hear from me early next week.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else for the good of the order? I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. I have a motion by legislator Rosenquist, second by legislator Castine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Bye. Good night.